Hi everyone, my name's Julie Mann. I am a professional network marketer. I'm an actor and I'm also an EFT practitioner. And today I'm really excited because I'm joined by Maya Roffler. Hi Maya.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
So nice to see you. So Maya, amongst other things, she's got so many things that she does, is a leadership coach. And I know that you work with women and you work to empower them so that they can grow personally and professionally. So I'm just really curious to know, Maya, did you grow up around powerful women?
That's a really great question. So my experience with powerful women, it did start with my mother. My mother was a single mother of four. And so I watched her struggle. I watched her struggle. She did not have a college education. She had to go back to work when my parents split up. So I always knew that I really wanted to be independent. I knew it was essential for me to make my own money. And I still feel that way many years later. And then, going into my career at a very young age, I started I had bosses that were incredible and very strong, powerful women. So I feel very lucky because of that. So yeah, I do feel like I was surrounded by them, and I feel lucky for that.
Brilliant. So what led you to doing what you do now? What was your journey?
So that's a great question, Julie. So I was putting myself through school because, again, my mother of four, and I worked. I put myself through college working, and I worked for a retailer called Joseph A. Bank, a men's clothing company. And after leaving college, I ended up going to the corporate office for them. And it was kind of a whirlwind. It was this amazing, strong leader who I'm still in contact with today. This was many moons ago. This was like 2010 when this happened. She called me up, and I thought I was working in a store. And I thought this was going to be, we were going to test this division in my store. Well, lo and behold, I was actually interviewing for a corporate role at like 22, 23. And I was
Wow.
yeah. And I was on a plane like in the next couple days. So the rest was kind of history. And she was really my first big inspirational woman in leadership. She was the youngest VP at this male dominated company. I learned a whole lot. And I was overseeing this program, three different programs actually, for a company that had over 600 stores. So after that, I went on to other leadership roles. I led teams of over 100 women, some men too, for several different companies. But my life really changed in 2016. At the end of 2016, I was in, again, another really big corporate role for an international company leading all north of America. And I lost my brother very tragically. And so my life kind of changed. I had to reevaluate. And I ended up going back into some kind of corporate roles, but more contract. And I started to develop my own business. And that's when my opinion, my brand was born. And it took a couple of years, but I decided to branch out on my own and really teach women, because I noticed that was my passion, how to kind of evolve into leadership and into their own role. Because whether you are wanting to lead a bunch of people like I did, or be in corporate America, or even have your own business, I saw a real lack of that mentorship in the coaching and mentoring field. And that's how it started.
Wow. Amazing that you're able to achieve all that, especially as you lost your brother.
Yeah, so it's, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's okay to fail. It's imperative to fail, because I thought that was going to be the Band-Aid for it. So in early 2017, I went to work for a startup, and then I decided to leave and start the business. And I started my podcast, and I started the business, and that was absolutely insane because I was grieving and I was going through so much. And I decided to go back and work for some other companies for a while and help them with their leadership and event programs, what I had a background in. And I'm really glad I did it. And I'm really glad I have that story, because I made a lot of mistakes launching my business the first time. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew what I was doing with leadership, but I didn't know what I was doing with my own business. So this time around, it's been a different experience. And it's also taught me to give myself grace and really understand that it's okay for us not only to fail, but it's okay for us to be down and take a breath and take care of ourselves, because we're not able to take care of others if we don't take care of ourselves.
Absolutely. And I absolutely love that word grace as well. Was there a particular time in your life where you felt powerless?
Yes, I mean, that would be one of them.
That's
For
right.
sure. That would be one of them. But you know, in 2016, I was 30, right? So I thought I was soaring on top of the world. And then that took like the sails, like the wind out of my sails completely. So that was really a time where I felt powerless for a while. It took me about a year to really get the footing back underneath me. But I would say also, I mean, several times through my career, when I first went to corporate at 22, 23, it was very intimidating because I had men around me that I was supposed to be peers and even, you know, their supervisor and over them and all these different, there's so many different things to navigate in that corporate structure that I hadn't been exposed to. How could I have been? I'm just out of college. And I remember some of them embracing it and wanting to mentor me, some of them acting inappropriately, some of them, you know, and then some of them really, they were bullies, and it wasn't the best environment, but it made me really tough. But at the time, I remember feeling powerless, definitely, during some of that. And having to find my inner strength and realize that I was there for a reason and that I was going to learn from this and it would make me stronger. It took time and it took the right mentors. And I was very lucky to be working for such an amazing woman at the time. And I went through it again in other corporate roles too. And I think it's important. That's why I love this question as well. I think it's important to remember that we all go through this. And I still have it happen to me sometimes too. When you're at home running your own business by yourself, you'll have those moments still. So it's an evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people feel really uncomfortable, don't they, around powerful women, sometimes even threatened by powerful women. So why do you think that is?
Well, you know, again, I experienced that at a very, I think, a young age in a corporate world. And I didn't understand it at the time. I was shocked by it, right? So I was so happy to see myself embraced or mentored and all of that. But then when I was seeing some of these men being very intimidated by it, I didn't understand it because I was so young. I didn't understand, like, why. I'm like, why, little old me? Like, why are they treating me like this? But, you know, obviously so many years later, I talk about this all the time with women when I'm coaching them and when I've led teams. And I think you have to remember it has absolutely nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the other person. If they are feeling insecure or they're lacking something, or there might be so much going on with them. So I truly think it's important for us as women to really exercise a strength of ours, which is empathy, and just remember that and have empathy. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that, you know, it's okay for them to feel that way or act that way, but just remember that it's not about you.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. I remember for years and years, Maya, I was kind of buffeted around by life, by circumstances, you know, and it wasn't really until I took personal responsibility for my life, for the way things had turned out, you know, that I really saw how much of my own power I'd given away. And I think it can happen so often. So have you got anything to say about that subject?
I love that subject. I actually have spoken to quite a few people about that lately. So it's interesting you bring that up. Yeah, I watch that happen with a lot of women. They give away their power or they kind of lose themselves. And I see this a lot with women that I'm helping build their brand or kind of go out on their own, and they're building leadership for themselves, right? In their own kind of brand. And I think and I've done it, I'm guilty too. I've lost myself, whether it be in a relationship or in a moment of, you know, going through mourning or going through just different things, helping family or even a job. Like I've gotten lost in my job to the point where I've gotten physically sick from it. So I think we have to remember that we are the number one priority in our life. If we don't take care of ourselves, we're not really able to not only take care of others, but really achieve our dreams and fulfill ourselves. And I know self-care is such a big topic right now, and thinking about it and making sure it happens, but it is really important. And self-care for you and self-care for me is going to mean two totally different things. And so remembering that, but I didn't really do that or take care of myself in the ways that I should have. And I traveled every single week for almost 10 years. And I always saw those videos on the plane where you put your mask on first, right? Before you put someone else's mask on. And it's interesting because when I first started traveling so much at 22, 23, I used to look and go, oh my God, well, why? Because it's always a child, right? The mother puts on her mask, or the father, and then the child. And I used to think, oh my God, why wouldn't you save your child first? I don't have that mindset at all now. I understand you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of everything going on with you so that you are strong enough to go out and achieve your dreams, to save your child, to help everyone else around you. And so when you lose yourself, how are you going to achieve your dreams? How are you going to live your best life, as everyone likes to say? So I think really spending that time, if you're feeling lost, if you feel like you're, not who you used to be, or you don't even remember who you are, really spend that time journaling, walking, whatever your passion is, listening to music, dancing, whatever you do to get that creative flow going. And you'll start to remember who you were as a little girl and what you loved to do, and it'll come back to you.
Brilliant. Obviously, you've had an incredibly successful career, and it sounds like there's absolutely no stopping you. What would you say are the keys to your success?
Well, thank you, Julie. Yes, there's ups and downs, but yes, I've been very lucky. The key to success for me, and my term, I always say, is determination. I think those who don't give up will always win, because I have failed many, many times in my life, but from the failures, I've learned a lot more than I have from the wins. And I appreciate a lot more now at my age the failures than I do the wins. It's funny, I think about the failures a lot more than the wins, but in a positive way now. I'm like, okay, great, that didn't work. How am I going to pivot and get better from it? So that's one thing I wish I knew 12 years ago, 14 years ago. And so that's something that has helped me really succeed, is changing perspective and looking at failure, so to speak, as learning. Failure is learning, and win is a win. It's great. It's exciting when you win, but you learn a lot more from failure. I'd say that's one of the things that's really helped me. Being true to myself, never compromising who I am for a job, for another person. I think that's really important. And, going through this journey and really understanding who I am and what I really want, and branching out on my own and figuring out through all, every single job that I've had in corporate America, or even working for startups, they weren't all my dream roles, right? So this is something that I love to talk about too. But from each job, I learned something about myself, and I was able to take that and then build my business. And I'm still building my business. And that, I think, is what has made me successful too, because I am able to pluck something out of each experience and learn. And, because not every single role, I wasn't leading over 100 people, but like that particular role where I had over 100 people, I realized, wow, I can really manage a lot of people. I can really, impact a lot of people. Then when I had smaller teams, I started to realize, wow, I'm really effective at helping women, really step into their power and step into what they want to do with their life. And so it evolves with each one. So that's advice that I often give to, it might not be your dream job that you're in right now, but look at how it can benefit you in the long run. So I do think that's helped me with my success.
Totally. It's just a stepping stone along the way, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How do you specifically help people?
So I love this question, Julie. Okay. So I think you know, a lot of coaches out there help in a lot of different ways. For me, the reason I love being a leadership coach is because I truly can empower women to lead. Okay. And so, you know, a lot of people are like, what does that mean? What does that even mean? So I feel like, you know, men, there's a lot of encouragement that happens for men to lead, right? And that's kind of, you know, I mean, leadership roles, I mean, are dominated by men in corporate America, C-suites, you know, I mean, VPs, all of it is up there with men. We don't have that. We don't have that for women. And so when I'm looking at, you know, working with someone and how I'm going to help them, I really look at, first and foremost, ask, you know, what's going on with you? You know, what is your role? What are you looking to do? What are you aspiring to do? So I really look at where they are, what are their goals, what are their aspirations, and then I build a plan to get there. And most of the time we go much further than that. So it really depends on the specific individual, but I guess to put it short and sweet, I help women get to the point that they want, like the point in their business that they want to go to and beyond, and empower them to get there and be able to fly on their own. That's when I know that I've really done a good job, because they're like, okay, and then they can report back to me. And even when I had, you know, women on my team, and now I just have contractors, you know, they're amazing, but it's a little different when you have like a corporate, you know, structure. But it was always great for me when I can empower them to go out and start to execute on their own. And I operate the same way with my coaching structure. Whether you are working with me on a month-to-month or you work with me for 6 months to a year, my goal for you is that you start working with me and I empower you all the way through, so that then you can go and fly off on your own and you can report back to me, you know, when you are doing whatever it is that you wanted to do. But I think women struggle with leadership sometimes because we don't have those examples or those tools as readily available when going through the corporate structure. So I tend to work with women who are, you know, in their, you know, starting off in their career or have been in their career for a little while and need that help getting to the next level. So really helping them get there as well.
Well, great that you said that, because I'm just thinking, if there's someone watching who is setting out, you know, it's a new business, just starting it, what advice would you give them?
So a lot of advice. If you have a new business and you're starting out, it does not matter if you are a product-based business, a service-based business, does not matter. A couple things I love to focus on. One, make sure you know your niche. Make sure you know where you are, what you're doing. There is, you know, we talked about coaches. There are a million health coaches out there. There are a million lifestyle coaches. There are a million just coaches in general, mindset coaches, all of that. It doesn't mean that you can't be one of those, but you need to niche yourself down to the point where people are like, oh my gosh, Julie, you are the coach that focuses on busy women in their 40s that are gluten-free. Then that is a niche, okay? So that's something that I really help women with as well, is really niching that down, because I think we always want to serve everyone everywhere. And this goes for products as well, right? Say you are a product-based company and you're doing health and beauty and you have a full skincare line. That's amazing, but there's a million lines out there right now. So let's say you're a CBD line. Great, we're niching down a little bit. There's a bunch out there too. What is your number one product? What's your number one seller? Well, actually, I have a product that helps with eczema and it rids people with eczema. Great. So now you're in a niche, and it's actually been approved by dermatologists. Great. So really, that's one thing I focus on a lot with women and coaching them as far as that aspect of the business. And also look at your branding. Make sure people can really identify who you are through your branding. And I'm talking as specific as be consistent with the colors that you use, the layout on your Instagram, your TikTok, Facebook, your page that they actually go to either buy your product or your service. They need to know that this is Maya's page, this is Julie's page, this is what she stands for. So there's a couple things there as well. I also invest in a coach, and I don't just say that because I'm one. I say that because I have one. And I also tell women too, I'm like, whether I'm the fit for you or someone else is, don't waste your time trying to go it alone. And I always tell them, think about this. Athletes out there, the best athletes, the best actresses and actors, what do they all have? A coach. So if they have a coach, you know that you need to have a coach and a mentor. And through my successes in life, in corporate America and not in corporate America, even now I have a coach. You need a coach. You need help, because that's the objective view for you to keep you on track. So those are just a few tidbits, but I could talk about this for hours. But yeah, those are a few things I would tell you.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Having a mentor, you know, someone who's going to take you through, hold your hand, so you can be accountable to them. You know, they're going to have your back, you know, encourage you. That's so, so important.
Yeah.
You mentioned briefly that you've got a podcast. My opinion, I just think it's just the best name. But tell me, what made you start it, Maya?
Yes, well, thank you about the name. So I wish the name had been my idea, but it's actually not. My friends have always told me that I'm really opinionated. And so they started calling me that nickname years ago. And I was like, that should probably be my brand. Like, that's me, right? So that's me. So that's how that name came to be. And it's my company name. It's the parent brand for all my other things. But so the podcast actually came to be in 2017. And I actually was on in 2016, to add more to the plate, I was filming a reality show. I was on a dating show. I was on a contestant. And then the show aired in 2017. And a friend of mine who had been in radio for 20 something years was like, look, you would be great at podcasting. Let's launch a podcast and talk about your experience, because there's a lot that went on, like losing my brother and just a lot of drama and crazy stuff on the show that you should talk about because you have an opinion. And I was like, no way, I'm not doing this. This is crazy. Well, we did it. And it turned out to be a hit. It was great. He was my co-host. We did 3 seasons because after the first season, we decided to talk about similar shows, and we had people on and guests, and it was a lot of fun. And then I was like, I don't want to talk about reality TV forever, because that's not what I am. I'm a leadership expert, and I want to talk about leadership. So I took a break from that, and I relaunched in 2019. And it's all about leadership. So on Mondays, I have an episode. It's a solo cast on Mondays, and I talk about a hot leadership topic. And on Wednesdays, I have a different inspirational woman on for Women Wednesday. And that is the podcast now.
Fabulous. I know that you have a real love of animals and that you volunteered for years, haven't you? So tell us about that.
Oh my God, yeah. So my husband and I have 3 dogs. So yeah, we both love animals. I grew up riding horses too, so I am just so passionate about animals. I volunteer locally here at the Atlanta Humane Society, which is where I got one of my dogs. Another one of my dogs is a rescue as well. So yeah, I mean, that's my passion. I think it's really important too. We were talking about thinking about finding yourself, if you've lost yourself, and getting back to yourself. After losing my brother, I was feeling very lost. And that's something that's really when I threw myself back into doing volunteer work. And it's where I found my second dog, my Chiweenie, Bonnie Blue, who I got in honor of my brother. And, it really feeds my soul and brings me back to center. And I think it's important that everybody has that. And I think it's important to give back and to do something that takes you outside of yourself, because I think we can all be pretty self-involved. We can be. And when you find something that, humbles you and you're passionate about, it raises your vibration and energy. And it's just good to give back to your community too.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. So of all the things that you've done, and there have been so many, what are you most proud of?
Oh my God, that's a good question, Julie. What am I most proud of? I would say starting. Oh, there's so many things. I would say starting my company though, officially LLCing it, starting my company, and not being afraid to go out on my own and really just trusting myself. Trusting myself is probably the thing that I'm most proud of because I think it's actually making me emotional. But I think it's the hardest thing for us to do as humans. And when you can trust yourself, I think the world is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So one last question. So when you're no longer on this planet, how would you like to be remembered?
I would definitely like to be remembered as someone who helped a lot of women and men too. I've helped a lot of men launch podcasts and leadership as well. But I would like to be remembered as someone who has inspired people to be the best versions of themselves, but really inspired them to go after their dreams, but lead from the heart and be the leaders of tomorrow and whatever that means for them, whether it means leading within their own business, maybe they're just leading themselves, or leading, being a CEO or VP or whatever that means of a huge company. I hope I can inspire and be remembered as the person that inspired them to go out and do that.
Love that. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Maya. Thank you
so
so
much.
very much.
Thank you for having me, Julie.